Hello, welcome to the Imagination Factory. I'm Sarah,
I'm Keith.
and today we're doing a live sketch session and we're going to start fresh. I'm going to give you three options of settings, and then
Hmm.
you can decide where we should take place. So, what I'm thinking is we could be in the Wild West, in a circus, or on Saturn.
Okay. Um, we can go with the Wild West. Why don't we go back to let me see if I can bring up as a reference one of the first things we did for the Twitch channel, which was our Pip and
Leonard?
uh Leonard. Yeah.
So I was picturing it possibly more in like a town setting, right? So
Mhm.
it's like there could be something happening outside of like the saloon. So maybe there's a little bit of a confrontation or something going on because the Wild West was known for tense moments, right? So we had talked about potentially doing this as a few panels as opposed to a single image. So maybe there's a little bit of storytelling that could take place sort of in the street outside of the establishments.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is, and we could always do this over a few episodes. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
all done today. But if we have maybe some small thumbnails that I'm going to create, so something that's like reduced size page,
Mhm.
so I can very quickly get an idea of how I would introduce something. Now, if let's say they're in the middle of action, um, and you said there's like some kind of like a conflict, uh,
Mhm.
what's the conflict?
Well, that's a great question. And I think it depends what establishment they're outside of, right? With it being the Wild West, I feel like there's so many conflicts. There could be something food related, but one of them is food. So that's probably not what they're fighting over.
Well, let's see. Maybe there's something there. So maybe it's um, they both have like a surprised. Well, let's see. We're saying Leonard is the grasshopper,
Yes.
so he's got a surprised look on his face, like, oh. Maybe his reaction is to some kind of what eats grasshoppers, like
Well, bearded dragons do.
oh,
So,
well,
actually, that's really interesting that maybe he's become friends with, Pip, and they are together, and another predator comes along, and now it's like, "Uh-oh, he wants to eat him," and it's like he's gotta defend his buddy Wild West style, right? Like, there could be something there, so maybe it could be, like could be another lizard, um,
mhm,
that comes into town, like, it runs the place kinda thing, and it's like, "No, he's not a friend, he's lunch." And that turns
yeah.
into, a conflict there.
Right, so I imagine something like, let's see, we've got the what are those, like, not geckos, but they've got, like, the
Oh,
side,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
shield.
Well, and what's actually really neat too is if there's a conflict between them, it's like he shows that, and then Pip shows, the bearded dragons have these big, huge black beards that can kind of come out and make them look really intimidating. So it could be like the standoff moment in the corral kind of a feel that westerns are known for, as he's got to defend his friend from being eaten and try and run the bad guy out of town.
Mhm. So, okay, as you're saying this to me, I'm trying to figure out, like, what's, like, a cool single page
Mhm.
story. So I'm adding another panel here, and I'm wondering maybe if oh, and the thing that I'm thinking of too runs on its hind legs.
Frilled neck lizard,
Grilled neck lizard.
apparently. It
Okay.
kinda looks like that. I'll see if I can find better pictures of it. With its big mouth, stands on its hind legs, frills it out.
Yeah, so
Super creepy and intimidating looking. It feels like it would be the arch nemesis of a bearded dragon, and definitely would enjoy eating a grasshopper or a cricket for sure.
yeah. So what I'm doing here is you've seen I've blown it up. For the time's sake, I'm just going to kind of go with this story idea, which essentially is we're getting a reaction from Pip
Mhm.
and Leonard. Well, like, excuse me, Leonard's kind of like, and Pip is like, what? And then now we've got the frilled lizard here,
Yep.
kind of, this is my town, you can't be here. And then we've got that, everybody's kind of like staring each other down kind of scenario. We've got the frilled lizard dude. I don't know what's his name.
Oh, good question. Samson.
Okay, so we got Samson here, we got Leonard here, and then we've got basically Pip like doing the whole like bearded dragon
Yeah,
thing with
because that's kind of what it looks like when he flares it out. It's super kind of intimidating when a bearded dragon decides to go full, like, black beard on them, so that's a good, like, little standoff where we have the frilled lizard up on his hind legs with his frill out, and then we have, like, "No, not in my town," and the beard comes out, and then see him scamper on out of here.
yeah, and then I think we could have like, the last one we see him running on his on those
Yeah,
back legs.
yeah, he
And
hightails
then
it.
we've got like maybe in the foreground we'll have like Pip kind of looking towards the audience going, phew, that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
exactly.
So
I think that's a fun little story in a few panels.
yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. I teach a workshop where you create like a story from beginning to end in a single page where you have, like you have to think of a problem, a conflict. You have to think of like two characters to use, a good guy, bad guy, whatever it is. Maybe some kind of a genre, right? So that we have all of that here, right? We've got
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
Western, we've got the uh problem, which is that they're in a town where a frilled lizard doesn't want them. The resolution for that problem or conflict is that um, you've got Pip, who's like, I am not afraid of you. In fact, I'm going to I eat frilled lizards for lunch, kind of thing. And
yes,
then you've got the uh, resolution essentially being that is enough to scare away, right? Like
yeah,
it's super simple, super, like
yeah.
kind of kid-like, but it's a great way for you to tell a story. If you can do this in a single page, then you can do a 5-page story, then you can do a 10-page story, and so on, right?
Exactly, because I mean, you're right, you've got to establish all those things, the characters, the setting, what's the conflict, the resolution, good guy, bad guy, everything that's gonna happen, and in a single page to be able to, start on your first sort of panel, and by the end of it, you've actually told a story. That's harder than sometimes doing it in multiple pages, and it makes you work hard to condense it down. And if you can do that, then you can expand, right? Sometimes it's harder to write that short letter than it is to write the long one.
Yeah. Um, so right now I'm trying to like figure out how to best create this composition. Like this is a pretty forward one. If you were to, there's another thing that I always talk about in regards to doing the composition is having like few types of like shots or
Yeah.
panels that you would almost see on every page, which is like a close-up shot, an establishing shot, and an action shot, right? And so you can kind of vary them up a little bit. So the first one here is an establishing. It's establishing that we are in this town, but it's also a little bit of a close-up, a little bit of an action, right? Um, it kind of does a little bit of everything, but for the most part, it establishes hopefully that you'll be like, okay, this looks like a Western town, right?
Mhm.
And you know, we have those three panels to the side there, which are your close-ups, right? Because we're really, or actually two of them are, excuse me, close-ups, and close-ups are good for emotion, showing like, like the fear, the confusion, all that kind of stuff. The last panel below it here before the final panel, it's kind of it is a close up, but it's also like an action, right? Because we're
Mhm.
doing um, it's a little bit of a play on what happened prior, which is a close up of the two other characters, but this time we're getting like this huge reaction from Pip, um, which is like "Rawr," something like that. And then the last panel here, you can say it's an action, but it's also an establishing too, because it's establishing that we're still in the desert somewhere, but now that we're the town is obviously in the other direction because all we're seeing in this direction is like plateaus and cacti and stuff like that and dust, right?
Mhm.
And then this one here, the final one right here is a straight on action shot because it's a full figure of the character, the bad guys about to draw, the gun or whatever it is that
Mm.
the world lizard would have um as a weapon, right? I don't know if it'd be like a gun or maybe it's like some kind of I don't know what would be some of the things. It could be like a thorn or something like that, right?
Yeah, it could be, like exactly, like, something that is and I think too, because he got his frill, that could also be his weapon, right? Like, so he's and that's kind of a neat play on that, like, he draws his frill, and then,
Mhm.
Pip gets back and be like, "Well, you think that's big, wait till you see my beard," right? And that ends up being, like, their kind of standoff thing is that they have built-in scare tactics.
So maybe then it's better to have this frill down in this action shot, and then to show the reaction of the frill kind of like
Yeah.
here in the
Like, he
close up.
steps in, and then he's like, "Okay," and then frills, and then we see, like, Leonard being like, "Oh god," and then Pip's like, "Don't worry," and he lets his beard out, and so we get
Yeah,
this what you would get in a Western, which is, like, those, like, tense standoff moments, and then somebody wins, right?
yeah. Yeah, and like there's all different ways this can happen. You can make it like another way of going about it. It'd be like if we were to show, this is a classic shot where you're like a worm's eye view
Mhm.
of the two characters, and you're like actually looking through the legs
Yeah.
of the one character, right? If we wanted to try another kind of classic Western
Mm.
shot here, um, and then have them, like so you could always do something where you're looking down, so it's like a Western here, like you're looking down in the houses and you see these two characters like standing off on either side. Maybe there's like a, crowd all around watching them. Um, let's see if we're making it so that it's Pip, maybe it's Leonard and Pip is,
Mhm.
like there we can see that Leonard and Pip are here between the legs. So again, and then all of a sudden you can make it a much more. This is a much more typical kind of like um shot where you may, you're now looking at the eyes of the characters squinting, right? And then you're gonna do another one where you have on the other side the characters kind of squinting back, and then so you
Mhm.
can do it that way too. Which, I mean, if I were to let's see, if I were to play this one out, so this is like the new character. Again, these are super quick. I don't know
Mhm.
if anybody actually understands what they're looking at, but I'm trying to just work something out. I'm always leaving a little bit of room for if there were dialogue here. So there would be dialogues, dialogue, that kind of thing. And then you could always come back to um a full shot of them drawing, which would be the frill dragon kind of putting its frills out, like going, "Ah!" Right? And we can have, you know, Pip kind of flying off of, um or Leonard flying off of Pip in fear, and then the next one would be the, reaction of Pip kind of doing the same thing back to the frilled lizard, and then the frilled lizard kind of running away, right? So there's
Yep.
there's another world where we have something slightly similar outcome, slightly different pacing. I feel like this one is okay. I kind of like this one a little bit better, maybe. Um, just I don't know, just because it gets you a little bit closer to the action. Like this one it's a little bit more of a distance at first, right? And then we get into what are your thoughts about like which one you like? And let me shrink it down so people can see side by side.
Yeah, I mean, the second one definitely feels it's interesting because it's like it's basically taking the traditional Western standoff and substituting our characters into an iconic scene, right? Something
Yeah.
that we've all seen and we recognize, but we're changing it up because how these guys fight is, with their own special abilities. So that is kind of interesting. But I also like the first one a lot because it actually highlights those a little bit more, right? Because I feel like the other one is a little bit more at a distance and a bit more, traditional in the look of it. Whereas the first option you did really shows off how these guys are unique and what makes them scary. So I'm kind of leaning towards the first one because I still feel like you get Western out of it. Like I still feel like you get that tense, like back and forth.
Mhm.
Um, but it suits more the look of the characters to give them those moments that really make them stand out.
Is there a third option? Can you think of a like a different kind of layout that would get us in a
Let's think.
similar so
Yeah, I wonder if maybe it's something where because there is a lot of kind of white space and room for dialogue in the second one, right, with, like, the longer panels, that maybe there is something where it's more like 2 shots. So maybe there's something where we sort of see them, like, right face to face, like, almost like they're ready to fight, and we see, like, them right facing each other in, like, a bigger panel where they're both doing it at the same time, and, Leonard or, Pip holds it longer and the other guy runs in the next one or something, but maybe there is something where it's a little bit more, um like a bigger reaction of the 2 of them in the center. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Like
And then
there's
maybe, like
also
maybe
sorry.
there's a world where while this is happening, actually what makes him run away scared is maybe Leonard goes and bites his tail, right? So that's the secret weapon is while they're so busy, like, frilling at each other, we have the little guy, like, actually save his own skin by going back and, like, right down on his tail, and that was like, that was enough that sends him flying. So maybe there's that little kind of joke, right? That thing that it's like the small guy who everyone was trying to protect could take care of himself.
Mhm. Yeah, well, okay, so, to your point, you can have let's see, the so we're the first one here, we're in a Western, setting, um, and I'm using the longer panels, I think, just so we get right away, we can see the characters,
You see
right?
them ready to rumble.
Yeah, and then we could always do, like, let's see, close up, maybe where we are, uh getting right into it right away so that we got like um Leonard doing his whole like roar thing. We can have Pip in the middle just kind of he's just his like antenna are down and then we
Mhm.
have the other lizard kind of doing the same thing like roar, right? And then um we can then have it would be kind of interesting to actually have hop hop hop. And then, so if let's see, uh, size comparison, let's say this lizard dude is somewhat bigger than even,
Yeah, bigger and scarier, right? So that in
yeah,
the he should be the winner, but he couldn't stand a little tail bite.
yeah, or something. He bites him,
Yeah.
crunch, and then we have the lizard, like running off into distance, something like that, like ow 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 ow. Ow.
Yeah, because I feel like that kind of it turns it a little bit on its head, like the expected, right, is
Mhm.
and then it's, like, slightly because you see these 2, showing off their frills and, like, who's the strongest, and it's like, little guy won." He took care of business by himself, and there's something kind of fun about that.
Mhm. Let me think about that. So the first one, I still kind of like the first one,
Mhm. I
but
like them all, I think they all work.
yeah,
It's just a matter of where we wanna take it.
yeah. Um, well, I think the first one is a little bit more like in your face, right?
Yeah.
There's a little bit more of like a uh, closer up in action right away, and then that last panel is a pulled away shot. The
Yeah.
second one is the opposite almost. It's pulled away, and then you get close, and then you pull away again. Um, the third one, um, there's a lot. There's a little bit more happening because you have to set up that shot
Mhm.
like you're adding a new element into it. Like like the
It's a more
first one.
ambitious story.
Yeah, it's a little bit more ambitious in regards to storytelling because the first one is essentially we're establishing um, the two characters or the three characters right away, what the conflict is going to be, right? Which is um, Pip Leonard scared,
Mhm.
and then Leonard Pip kind of like resolves the issue by scaring the bad guy back,
Yeah.
right? Whereas the third one, they're doing that, and then Pip or Leonard goes to
Yeah. Takes business into his
Admiral.
own hands.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and so yeah, but it could work. It's just now so one, two, three, four, five, six panels. One, two, three, four, five, six. I think this is seven. Um, and then one, two, three, four, five, six. Yeah, so like the ones that the when you're adding more panels to something, you're slowing down the action because you're
Yeah.
forcing the reader to look at more than like extra panels. Their eyes are going to slow down a little bit, right? So and of course, if like there's a lot of if there was less panels but a lot of dialogue that can slow your eyes down too,
Yes.
right?
For
So, I
sure.
mean, it's a bit of a trade-off, but in this situation, I don't think there's a lot of dialogue. So,
No, this is
um,
one where the visuals really can tell the story because it's a simple story to tell, right? I think one of the other things to mention as well is what's gonna be important is quickly establishing good and bad, right? So that
Mhm.
we can tell, um, who the good guys are and who the bad guy is, right? Because sometimes when they both kind of have a similar look, it's like, well, who's who's good and who's bad? But it's like different angles, different amounts of, shadow and light and stuff like that help you
Mhm.
quickly know who we're rooting for because we're not giving a lot of time to really get backstory on these characters. To know which one who's defending and who's fighting.
Okay, well, that's a really good point because the first one I feel establishes that really quickly,
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
With that first panel where you have Leonard like even going, like he's scared, you're
Yeah, and he's on his buddy. So that one automatically feels like the good guy because they're together, and the other one, he comes in alone, and it's like immediately he feels more evil, whereas the second one, they feel almost equal. I think it's one of those things where it's like if we need the audience to quickly know how are we establishing that, right? Like how are we knowing who we're rooting for when we have such a short amount of time to establish that and there's got to be a winner and a loser within a page. So we're not getting into a whole lot of development or backstory from these different characters. So
yeah. Actually, I think I have a solution. Maybe even just pulling this back a bit so that we have let's see, Leonard kind of like pulling back on the reins of Pip, right? He's like, whoa. So it's amazing. There's so many different possibilities, right?